everybody. I don't know if it hears me. Yes. Okay. Everybody can hear me okay. It's good to see everybody. I've been seeing some of you guys in the intentions over the week, well, yesterday. So that's good to see you guys again. And I'm hoping Omar will find one of these intentions that happen late night. Oh, maybe he can come on at the end of this call for the breath work that we'll be doing at the end of this call, because Omar's in Canada, so he's the only one who's on a really odd time. So I always appreciate that he's here, because I know he has to get up in the middle of the night, and it's a little bit harder for him to do some of the breath work. Rita's so kind to do 3 breathwork sessions a week. And some of you may already know that you would know, that we're doing the intentions, the group intentions at the end of each breathwork. So it could potentially be some of the most powerful intention ceremonies in the history of time, since back in the day when the ancients were really good at these things. So we're bringing it all back, some really powerful intention ceremonies, 2020 style on Zoom. I know that our intentions are really good because we're following the science of intention. And that's really where I've been going, you know, lately, as I'm talking about intention setting. I wonder sometimes if you're thinking, man, she's really out there. Or I wonder if sometimes you think, wow, she's a really great scientist. I wonder if you know what hat I've been wearing. See, I wear both hats. I'm definitely out there, but I'm also a very serious scientist. I'm both. I'm absolutely both. I always say I'm a scientist by day and I'm out there hippie by night. But these days, I wonder if you know what hat I've been wearing over this transition period. When I say the transition period, I think of last week and when we started the group intentions. That's when we started to go deeper. And I wonder if you know what hat I was wearing when I started moving us into the group intentions. If I was wearing the science hat or the new age hippie hat. Well, I was definitely wearing my science hat because everything that has helped me to build these intentions, I've had to spend my time studying the science of intention, studying quantum biology, quantum physics, the quantum biology science around intention. So it's been really nice because I think the reason I've always been into quantum biology as opposed to biochemistry. So there's quantum biology and biochemistry. And most people who are into health and nutrition, as I am, are really into biochemistry. But I've always been into quantum biology because it's that bridge between my daytime world and my nighttime world. It's the bridge between my wearing the scientist hat and the new age hippie hat. Quantum biology is now at the forefront of health and wellness. And I'm very excited to say that this group is embracing quantum physics and quantum biology as we do these intention groups. So I probably spun your head around a few times, but what I'm really trying to say is that we're doing straight up hardcore science. And I'm telling you that because I'm sure at times you question things. You're like, oh, is this really gonna work? I'm not really sure. Come on, is it really out there? I don't know. It's a little bit woo-woo. Actually, no, we're practicing high level quantum physics. And today we're gonna be right deep in the middle of it. So we're gonna be, so back to the breath work I started this conversation with, is saying that I think that these will be some of the most interesting, potent intention ceremonies of modern times because we're applying the science so specifically. Every bit of the science I've poured over again and again and again and again and again. And then I've amplified it by tapping into Rita, that Rita is bringing and amplifying that power upside. So if you see an intention group, they take 3 deep breaths and they send intention, and that's beautiful. But with the breath work, we're taking more than 3 deep breaths. Like Rita's really taking us on a breath work journey. And I'm just super excited about how that is amplifying the experience for both the senders and the receivers. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So this is just a plug to say, if you can make it to those breathwork groups that happen Friday, 3 o'clock Bangkok time, Saturday, 6 p.m. Bangkok time, and Sunday, 3 p.m. Bangkok time. This is where the magic's happening. So I'm really thrilled about this. And I'm thrilled that we have our first Power of 8 group that will continue on long after we keep having these live classes. I hope that's the goal. And that's our London Power of 8 group. So we have about 10 people in it. And if you are on London time or near London time and you'd like to be in that group, let me know so I can connect you with everybody in that group. And then I'm going to be reaching out to you because the London group is great. We got a good model going, and it's going to work. It's going to be good. So I'm going to be reaching out to the Middle East, and I'm going to be reaching out to Southeast Asia, and I'm going to reach out to Australia, to all of you, and I'm going to try to help you assemble some local Power of 8 groups in your time zone so that you can keep these intentions going, this intention work, maybe through the rest of the year. You can even bring other people in, however you want to do it. But I really I believe that you're going to see the magic evolve and open up for you over time. So on that note, I have something I would like you guys to do to monitor the effects of your work. So this is from the handout that you're going to get at the end of the call. And I'm just going to ask you to, if you are attending the breathwork ceremonies, and if you're also getting into an intention group, as I said, the London group started, and I'll be reaching out to the other groups over the course of the week. So if you're doing some of this intention work with a group, what is suggested by the scientists, that they've put this together, and they've asked people to start looking at their life at the time of starting this work and monitor it every month or every week, however you want. So if you could look at, let's see, is today, what is, so June 15th would be a good day to evaluate. So we're going to do some intention work today. And of course we did it last Saturday. So if you maybe today could start tracking kind of what is the status of your relationships? What is the status of your career? What is your health? What is this? How do you feel about this, your sense of your life purpose? And are you living that out? And what are you feeling just in general about life? So if you make all those notes today, like a little journal, what's going on, and then next week, evaluate it in a week. And then evaluate it again on June 30th, and evaluate it again June 15th, evaluate it again June 30th. You could evaluate the progress in your life over every week. If some people might prefer to evaluate it monthly, that they might be able to see more significant changes across the course of a month. What's that? There's that expression where you watch it, you don't want to watch a soup boil, or if you watch a soup boil, it doesn't boil right. See, this is the problem after leaving America so many years. I forgot a lot of these American expressions I grew up with. Does anybody know that? I don't know. Something about you don't want to watch a soup boil. It won't boil right. You want to take your eyes off of it so it boils better. I don't know what that expression is, but okay, hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so you might choose to do it monthly, but either way, I would really encourage you. Oh, what I said, a watch pot never boils. That's it. Okay, I really had that wrong. Okay, so however you want to monitor in your life, I really wish I would have done that starting this course, if I would have written down my status, because I know my life's kind of blown open for me in many exciting ways. And I know it wasn't so good when this whole call started, because it was just when the beginning of the lockdown. So definitely there's been progress in my life. So that's just one little piece of business I want to attend to. And next, we'll go to the next slide here. Okay, so back to, we're going to do a lot of exciting things on the call today. But as I mentioned, every week I like to do some of that desire mapping work, where we continue to narrow in on getting to know what we really want. As I mentioned last week, the number one question I always get from people, or the number one statement I get from people, even still now, and I'm not, even still now, is I don't know what I want. And still this week, I still get that. And I expect, you know, I'll keep getting it. We really, you know, many people don't know what we want. And so that's why we're doing this desire mapping process and trying to narrow in on those core desired emotions, those feelings that we actually want, because that's what we really want. We're trying to tap into a frequency or a vibe. So today we're going to get a little negative, because I think it's very important to address the negative and how that can play out. So a lot of us tend to manifest more of the negative. So say that if you have a negative, if you launch a rocket of desire, like today, you actually create a manifestation, you create a visual. Can I just, I want to see them. Okay. Say you create a visualization today, or you send out a manifestation, or you do a prayer, and you're all excited about it. And then you're going to walk back into your daily life, and the negative is staring you right in the face. And it's very easy to then put your intention on the negative. It's right there, and it's so tangible, and it's so real. But what I'm asking you to actually do is keep your energy on building what you are building in the vibrational world. So imagine you go launch this rocket of desire and you visualize this dream that you have. You've got to keep your eye on the ball, which is a real challenging game. You know, I think that's the best way to look at it. You create this visualization, and then you go back and have to face the stuff you don't like. Well, what do you do with it? Well, it's very much like that shaking meditation that we did a week ago and we're going to do today. And if you remember, I'm going to give you the instructions again for the shaking meditation that we're going to do today. I'm going to give those instructions to you now, because it's the same way we deal with the negative. So as I'm going to, when we do the shaking meditation today, you're all going to be blindfolded, and Jenny's going to play this amazing music, and you're just going to start shaking it out, shaking it out. You're going to get a little disoriented, and you're going to shake it out. And it really is a meditation, because as you're shaking, a thought's going to come in, and you could easily attach to it. But ideally, you just look at it without attachment, and you just let it go, and you go back to shaking, go back to center, go back to center. And then another thought, just like a game, just like a video game, if you're playing some video game, is going to jump out at you, and it's probably going to be even bigger, and it's going to seem more real, and it's going to try to draw your attention in, and you very well might attach to it and run off a little bit with it. But then bring yourself back to center. If you can catch yourself with running off with a thought, it's sort of like getting lost in a dream, because that's exactly what's happening. You're going to attach the thought, because this time that thought seems so real and so tangible and so important, and it was so attractive, whether it was a good attraction or bad attraction, whether it was positive and negative, it grabbed your mind, and you felt to give it enough importance to run off with it. As you're running off with it, I'm going to ask you to then keep shaking harder, breathe through it, breathe through it, breathe through it, bring yourself back to center, bring yourself back to center, keep going through the shaking, keep going through the shaking. And then again, sure enough, another sort of, then you're going to get mad. Because most of the time people get mad at some point in a shaking meditation or a meditation. They say they heard somebody making a noise. They heard somebody coughing, or they thought, Jenny's completely crazy asking us to shake. I'm disoriented. Mel's crazy for bringing us all here. And that seems like the ultimate thought to run away with, because now you're mad, and no, I'm justified in being mad. This thought's very important because I'm mad and I'm frustrated and this is crazy. Who would have thought to shake? Why would we even do that? And then you might run, but don't run. Or if you catch yourself running, again, shake yourself back to center. And eventually, after you keep bringing yourself back to center, then you are centered. And there, in that moment, you can truly be you. You can feel yourself. And why this dynamic meditation is considered a beginner's meditation and the best meditation for beginners is it's a lot easier to shake off these thoughts than it is to sit on a mat and just not move and let these thoughts just keep spinning through your head. If you can shake it out and breathe it out and lose your mind, get disoriented, it's easy to push away the thoughts until you become a very good meditator. And then you can sit on the mat and you can push the thoughts away, sitting in an uncomfortable lotus position, because all this stuff's going to happen in lotus position, but it's a lot easier than in shaking. So I really, really encourage you guys to practice the shaking meditation. It's good for the body. You move a lot of energy, but ultimately it's practice for life. It's practice for life, because you will, when you are in life, you're going to come to one of these events like today, and you're going to make this beautiful manifestation, and somebody's going to come and prove to you, no, this is reality, not that beautiful idea you have over here. This is reality, and it's going to pull you in, and it's going to seem so real, and you're going to run off with it. But if you can look at reality, that's great. Look at that and stay a bit detached. If it's not the reality you want, stay detached. If it's the reality you want, give it some gratitude attached to it, you know, because that's part of what you're building over here. You know, you've just designed this beautiful architecture around your dream. And as that dream starts filtering in, go running off with those exciting things that are proving that your reality is coming true, by giving it gratitude, by giving it energy, by giving it appreciation. But those demons that show up, shake them off, detach from them. Of course, you're going to go get in a fight with two of them. You're going to, then you're going to wake up. Then you're going to wake up when because I guarantee I'm going to walk out of here today. I'm going to get pissed off about something. And then hopefully I'll wake up in a dream, detached, shake it off, and go back to that thing that I'm building. So I believe that shaking meditation is practice for what you're going to have to do to bring your manifestation into reality. So that's one of the ways that you can leverage the negative is to look at it, but not feed it and detach from it, and go back to feeding the good stuff you like by giving it gratitude. And that will build your new reality. So the other way that we can deal with the negative, because negative emotions are very, very useful. I mean, they're around for a reason. They're very, very constructive if we know how to leverage them. And the best way to leverage a negative emotion is to say, I'm feeling this negative emotion. Well, what is its opposite? Because if this emotion is bothering me so much, it means that I want its opposite so much. So if I'm feeling anger, that means I really want joy. If I'm feeling blocked, that means I'm desiring flow. So as I keep driving you into identifying those core desired emotions, one of the best ways to really find out what you want is to let the negative emotion squeeze it out of you. It makes you so upset. Identify that negative emotion, give it a name, a label, you know, decide what that emotion is. And then if you don't, and then look up the opposite. You could look it up in a dictionary, or maybe off the top of your head, you can look up the opposite. Let's see, I'm gonna go to the opposite. So here is our word list of negative emotions. And what I suggest is take a little moment to look at these awful, well, they're not awful, they're useful if you leverage them. But when one of these emotions comes up, all you have to do is think of its opposite. And for some reason, and what I suggest sometimes is running it through a thesaurus and looking at its antonym, because the antonyms that come up, you'll get a lot more words, a lot more opposite words that will maybe help be a little more specific. So you have all these negative emotions that could potentially come up, and you're going to want to flip them to their opposite to help you understand more of what you want. So if anything, the negative emotions can maybe be the most useful tool of all to help us figure out what they want, especially if the emotion is big and amplified. It's just telling you how much you want the opposite. So it's good news that negative emotions are a wonderful tool for us to leverage. So I have a little exercise that this is also a desire mapping exercise. And if you have a piece of paper, I'd love for you to have a chance to do one of those speed rounds. And let's see if we can generate some things that we don't like in our life that we're just over experiencing. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and do this worksheet now. And right now, you're not going to write the emotion. You're just going to identify those things that you don't like seeing in your life anymore and those things that you don't like seeing in the world anymore. And then when we're done with doing this speed round, we'll come back and see why. And we'll make a list of what emotions are they eliciting for you. So that will help us to flip later and see what it is that you really, really want. So if you're ready, I would like to say ready, set, go, and encourage you to start the worksheet and start doing this speed round. And I'll read the directions here. So don't concern yourself here with being respectable or responsible. This is not the time for adulting. Just let it rip. You can include personal and world issues on the list, whatever comes up for you. So answer any or all of these in order. So here we go. Just let it rip. Don't be responsible. Just let it rip. Ready, go. I'll give you a few minutes to do this on your own. Okay, so hopefully you are coming to a close with that exercise and didn't let the logical mind get in the way and really identified what you don't want. Now I'd like you to go back and look at each of these things you're not wanting in your life or you're not wanting in the world. And I'd like you to see, why don't you like the emotions do they bring up in you? What negative emotions do they make you feel? And I want you to really feel into each one of those emotions. And when you feel into that emotion, can you write the total polar opposite emotion next to it? So as I said, I realized that I was getting really angry from being blocked. Meaning when well, it's a little personal. You know, I think if any of you have ever run companies, you've had experiences where you ask staff to do something, but it doesn't get done and it doesn't get done. And, you know, it gets angry. And then I thought, am I angry? Well, when I went a little bit deeper, I realized, no, I'm angry, but why am I angry? So it's sort of like you want to find the least common denominator, that you want to say, is it anger or is there something under it that really is frustrating? And I realized when I wanted to do something at Phuket Cleanse and I would ask for it to be done, and I'd ask for it to be done, and I'd ask for it to be done, I was angry, but what was really there is my manifestation was getting blocked. And so what is the opposite of blocked? Well, I couldn't figure out what's the opposite of blocked. So I had to go get a thesaurus and look up the word blocked to see what are synonyms for blocked. And I saw all these synonyms for the word blocked. And then I picked the word that matched what I felt that I really was wanting. And it was flow. If I want a manifestation, I want it to flow and I want it to happen. I would really like you to take time, and I'd like you to pull up now if it's convenient. I believe that if you can identify some of these emotions that are being triggered in you, such as anger, see if you can go a little bit, is it anger or is it something under that? So I created, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to give a shameless plug for our new hot yoga studio here at Phuket Cleanse. It's truly, I think it's the best yoga studio ever built. And I had nothing to do over during the lockdown, but create this. So I used all the years of medical science that I've had in the field of health to put in everything that could ever be good for anybody in the studio. So I have all this infrared therapy. I have salt steam that comes in the room. I have herbal steam that comes into the room. And I've made it much hotter. And the yoga is more ambitious, so it generates a lot of heat. And the yoga sequences are incredible. And so we launched it on my birthday, and that was Monday. And when we came out of it, there were some people that, two of the people didn't like it. And, you know, most of us were really happy. We had the best experience. We're laughing, a high five was amazing. But these two people were like, you know, just, they missed the old one. And I thought I was frustrated. I thought I was frustrated by their actions. Then I was angry. But then when I dug deeper, I found that I felt disrespected, that they didn't, it wasn't that they disrespected me, that they disrespected the science. And that's what I felt, disrespected. Okay, now I looked, okay, I was so triggered and I was so angry. I realized I dug deeper to see what was under the anger, and that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Dig deeper, dig deeper, dig deeper. Find the least common denominator emotion. When you feel like you can't factor out any more negative emotions and you've hit that real trigger word, then look that up in a thesaurus and see what positive synonym, what positive, right? You look it up, you look up its antonym. So I look up disrespect. Then I have to go to a thesaurus and look up an antonym for disrespect. And it shows me respect, but it shows me maybe 7 other words that mean respect. I look at all 7 of those words and I pick out the word that lights me up the most, that just makes my heart feel excitement and joy. And then I know the emotion that I'm really, really shooting for. So this is the process of clarification of your core desired emotions, is that factoring out, digging deeper and factoring out. Because this will help us to make more clear manifestations if we go dig deep on this. So I know I keep blabbing, but hopefully you see it's a lot of digging. It's like a math equation, really. It's a lot of digging, factoring out all those emotions, looking up the antonym, the opposite, finding that positive opposite emotion you like, and looking at all the synonyms and seeing which of those synonyms, which of those similar words blows your heart open with excitement. And that's what you want. So I'm feeling through this process, we are going to come up with those really, really pure, core desired emotions that your heart desires more than anything. So put your heart into this right now and go for it. Someone said that they have like a lot of negative emotions, and I'm sure a lot of us have that. And so someone said, do I need to look up every one of those? Well, I'd say, sure, you could look up all of them, because the more you generate, then the more you have to work with, that you could delineate down into what you really want. But for the sake of time, we could say that maybe you want to just look at the ones that trigger you the most. Like when you think of that emotion, if it really triggers you, or you think of that memory, if it really triggers you, look at the emotions, see if you can factor it down to what's really bothering you. And then if it's really triggering you, then it's very much worth looking into. It's definitely worth looking up its antonym and looking at the positive version, and then looking at all the synonyms, the similar words, to see what one triggers you in a good way, lights your heart up really big. So some of you are finished and some of you are still going, and this process could take a while. And you're certainly welcome to revisit it again and again and again. But for those of you who are kind of half paying attention to me, half working on it, if you can listen to me in the background, I'll tell you what I did with those ladies that were complaining about my hot yoga studio. Now I'm going to try to keep myself together and not get too angry from feeling so disrespected here. But I came out, you know, feeling euphoric. I cried at the end of the yoga, all these months of building this room, and Jenny teaching the best yoga I ever had, and actually physically being able to get through it was very challenging. I was crying at the end of class, so happy. And I open up the door, and who's sitting there? My shadow of doubt. So those ladies are just manifestations of my own shadow of doubt, but they're real. I mean, they're real. They're real people. You can touch them. You can hear them complaining. They're just as real. And they were in my face. Like I couldn't even pass them. I couldn't even go have a moment of happiness. They're like waiting out there for me and taking everybody's attention. So just as I manifested that glorious thing, obviously my shadow of doubt showed up in these two ladies. And just like that shaking meditation I told you about, I said, don't attach, just look at it, don't attach, just don't, even if I have to talk to them, observe, but don't attach, breathe, but don't attach, support them, love them, but don't attach. That's what I should have done, because that's what you're going to do in the shaking meditation. You're going to look, but not run off with it. But sure enough, I'm in it with them. And they're complaining, blah, 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 blah. And it's first they were saying it's too hot. Then they said it wasn't hot at all. And then they were saying, oh, then they were complaining about the price. I mean, they were all of my shadows of doubt put together in two people. And I had never met them before. So of course I was in it. And it ruined the whole opening of the yoga studio. It was my birthday. We're supposed to have a birthday cake afterwards. I finally ate the birthday cake yesterday. I couldn't even eat it because my shadows of doubt were hanging there, ruining my day, and I was overly attaching. And then I went back to my room and just did all the medical research and was on Facebook chatting with them all day, because these shadows of doubt didn't want to go away. They wanted to complain and argue with me all day long. And I was right in it with them, arguing back. But it was kind of like talking to a wall, because they really didn't know much about medicine. I should have identified them as my shadow of doubt, but I kept engaging. And what would have been the right thing to do is not feed the manifestation was there. I built the studio. There was a celebration, but I ran off with the negative. And the message is, that's what's going to happen with you with the negative. You can you can run off with the negative, and then you're going to build more of what you don't want. But if I should have put my energy into the celebration of the accomplishment. So when you see your shadow of doubt, they're very real, they're very sticky, they're very attractive, just like the thoughts that are going to come up in your shaking meditation. But when you see your shadows of doubt, when you see your shadows show up as real breathing humans or experiences, you can go back and do what you did here today. They overly triggered me, and I need to look into what it was that they were really squeezing out of me. They were helping me to identify what was still there and what I still wanted. They helped me realize that for some reason I felt disrespected and I wanted some respect. But at the end of the day, people around me seemed to be respecting me. I believe the problem's right here, that I'm not respecting myself, that for some reason I'm not giving myself kudos. I'm not saying, congratulations, you built this. I'm not just celebrating my every accomplishment. The lack of respect is going deep. So this is what I want you to do, just like you dug deeper with all those words till you found the least common denominator. When you say, I feel disrespected, I want respect. Don't go looking around for everybody else respecting. You got to dig deeper, deeper, deeper. Where is that disrespect coming from? Am I giving myself kudos? Am I giving myself respect? Am I patting myself on the back? Am I taking the compliments graciously with my heart wide open? Am I shouting that I did it, I did, I'm so excited, I'm so proud of myself? No, sometimes being humble isn't so good. So when you squeeze this stuff out, don't stop and blame someone else for not getting you respect, because you're not really dealing with the dirty stuff. You got to go under the hood and see that more than likely these emotions are coming from your relationship with you. It's between you and you. So please go deeper and deeper and deeper. Can you look at those core negative emotions and see if it's coming from you to you? Is it your relationship between you and you? Or can you look at those core positive emotions, the desired emotions, and ask, am I radiating this emotion? Am I giving this to myself? Am I the embodiment of this emotion? At the end of the day, it goes that deep. So we'll go a little deeper today through a number of processes where we're going to go real deep and hard with this work. So that's kind of where we're going with it. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, this is a little something for you to do for homework, the step 2 and the step 3. I'll leave that for you to do for homework. I just want to point that out. You'll have this at the end of the call. Right. So that is, I'm going to change the subject completely right now for just a bit and go back to the science of intention. And we'll be revisiting those emotions a bit again. Mainly what you're going to be doing with those new core desired emotions that you have generated is to look at if your intentions match the core desired emotion. So say if you're coming to the breathwork call today and you are going to be manifesting something, you've asked for a manifestation, and if you've asked people to manifest something on your behalf, you got the survey the other day and many of you sent us your manifestation. You said, this is what I want to achieve. I want to achieve this new job, or I want to achieve healing. Or I want to move to this new town, or I want to have a wonderful relationship. What you're going to need to do at some point to see if this is really the right manifestation for you and that your manifestation's clear, that your outcome's clear, is you're going to have to say, do these core desired emotions, what core desired emotions match and what intentions do they match? So you probably have 4 or 5 intentions. It'd be nice for you to kind of draw a line from your core desired emotions to your intentions and see if they're in alignment. Because if they're not in alignment, maybe you're shooting too low, or maybe you're attempting to shoot for the wrong thing. What you think you want isn't really what you want if it's not matching those energies, those core desired emotions you have. So that's a little exercise that you should do when you're doing some manifestation work. Really make sure that your outcome is really what you want. You might be able to go bigger, wider, more magnificent. Or you might realize that's not at all what you wanted. It's something else. So that's how you're going to use those core desired emotions later. So I just wanted to mention that as we move into this next topic. So this next topic is, I want to go back to the science of intention. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, what's going to be happening when we do group manifestation. The reason that the scientists say it's so powerful is that we begin to become what's called a superorganism. Now, some of you know I've had an interest in ants and bees lately. I put out something on the WhatsApp group yesterday and said, hey, could anybody help me with a little research? I'm looking for a few fun facts on ants and bees. And the reason I came up with that is because the intention scientists, the intention physicists state that when we do group manifestation, when we're all in a group holding hands and we're sending energy to somebody or to somebody's manifestation, we become more of like what's called a superorganism. We begin to think and generate energy with one mind. And so there's not many superorganisms on Earth. The scientists have only identified 2 kinds of superorganisms, and they're ants and bees. And ants and bees have one mind. They are individual creatures, but they have one mind. So there's no conflict, everything's teamwork, everything is group work. But what happens when the organism begins to think with one mind? Now you might say, well, what does an ant and bee have to do with me? Well, humans have genetic traits to be able to do it. We just don't activate it. And I will talk about the human traits that they've identified, showing that we have it in our DNA. We just haven't activated it yet as a society, but at times we can get together and activate this group mind. So ants and bees basically, and this is from the scientists, I'm reading this off of my iPad. Ants and bees have superpowers. Now, I don't know if you ever looked at an ant and thought, oh man, that's like that ant has superpowers. So ants and bees are considered advanced civilizations, and they're called superorganisms. They operate with one mind, one energy, and total cooperation. Ants and bees both build some of the most sophisticated building structures that engineers and architects study: ant mounds and beehives. That's interesting. Now here's something that ants do that's super insect, I guess. Ants lift 1,000 times their body weight. So ants actually, this would be equivalent to a 180-pound man. I don't know what that is in kilograms. I don't think it's like, it might be like 75 pounds, 70 kilograms, I don't know, something like that. Lifting a Boeing jet. So yeah, so it's like a 180-pound man lifting a Boeing jet. Ants also move faster than any other creature. Their jaws move at 140 miles per hour when they clamp down. So what the scientists have found is because they're uniting with group mind, they are also sharing energy as a group. And that group sharing the energy helps them to tap in to their super antness, or I don't even know what to call it. They're not superhumans, they're super ants. Ants also are the longest living bug, and their queens live 30 years. Ants also communicate with other ants in close proximity by releasing chemicals in the air that other ants sense. These pheromones serve as messages that ants use to speak to each other, as well as to provide warnings for approaching predators. Odorous house ants in particular are known for releasing a chemical trail for other ants in the colony to follow. Their odor communicates with about 10,000 other ants. So they're communicating with smell. Now, what we know about these superorganisms, they tend to live in groups. Individuals care for offspring that are not their own, and they work altruistically. Now, bees are also quite interesting, in that bees can live in the same way as ants. They communicate by buzzing their mood, and their buzzes all have different frequencies that represent emotions, but they carry 71 times their own weight, and they can also carry heavy weight when they're airborne, which is quite unusual. And they travel at really high speeds, but this is what's interesting. When you might have seen like a swarm of bees just swarming around. So when bees have to really travel fast and travel far, they first have to like flap their wings to generate the energy. But then when they swarm together, they swarm, they're generating energy and heat in a circle. So they generate enough energy to be able to fly really fast. So these are some interesting things about ants and bees, and what they have found in terms of human DNA, that we have what's called mirror neurons. And that means that it is the beginning of our genetic, they're genes that show that we have genetic ability to operate as a superorganism someday. Someday, if we want to be able to tap into it as a society and be more cooperative and live in a selfless way, we will be able to operate and live more in one mind. Maybe not to the level of bees, but we will be intuitive and be able to work and tap into higher amounts of energy if we work in a collective. So mirror neurons are very fascinating for the scientists, because when the scientists have studied group intention, they have found that when they would put EEGs on one intender and have another intender either in another room or on the other side of the world, and say that one person's intention was to be a fabulous dancer, and they asked the other intender to please meditate and visualize this person being a fabulous dancer. The person who wants to be a dancer is, say, visualizing it in the dancer side of the head. Whatever part of our brain is active when we're dancing, that part of the brain is active as they visualize dancing. And they find it's the same in the sender, that the sender and the receiver tend to have, they're activating the same part of the brain. So they're finding that intenders and receivers are active, the receivers are definitely feeling it and the senders are feeling it. And they're both activating the same parts of the brain based on what the intention is. So that's been very interesting. They've also found that, that the receivers will receive more energy and more activation in that side of the brain if the receiver can be in the heart and visualize as if the heart is open. If the heart is open, we can receive better. We want to be open to receive if we're a recipient of an intention. And if we're an intender, we are gathering energy that's coming through our body and we're sending it that way. But what they find is if we are listening to the same music and if we're breathing maybe at the same rate, that they begin to synchronize even if they're at a distance and they're focusing on the same intention, that their brain waves begin to synchronize. So maybe two intenders, if they look at the EEG, the intender and the receiver maybe walk into the room or walk on Zoom, and their EEG, one EEG shows brain waves that are quite staggered, and maybe another's is just quite flat. But they notice after a period of time, they begin to synchronize. And when the brain waves begin to synchronize, that's when it seems that both the sender and the receiver are starting to carry and grow the amount of biophotons that's running through their body. So what they're finding is that act of breathing together, intending together, creating that connection, whether it's through an intention ceremony or whether it's even walking up and helping someone or sharing a kind word, heart to heart, giving, oh God, there's a bee. I haven't seen a bee in a very long time. And sure enough, I was talking about bees and a bee came. It almost stung me, it came right on my hand. So what they're saying is that if you're intending together, you're tapping into some of that super mind, that super organism capability that ants and bees have. That you're sharing and generating a greater amount of energy than as if you were just intending alone for yourself. And at the same time, if you walk up and you are helpful to somebody, if you say kind words to somebody, you both begin to generate more energy together and you begin to resonate. So you're capturing more energy, you're resonating together, and you're tapping into that greater superorganism capability that we humans have. That's very, very, very difficult for me to explain, and I don't know if I really completely explained it, but maybe you can begin to feel it every time you open your heart to somebody and you say something kind, or you're helpful, or you're working in a teamwork type situation, or you're working cooperatively with people, or you're intending for others. You should start to feel changes in your life. You're generating energy, you're operating in more coherence, and you're activating your own genetic evolution. And that's basically, they're saying that the next evolution with human will be this. Then as we begin to live more cooperatively, as we begin to not fight against each other, but think of we and not me, we will start to experience that next evolution of human. So back to yoga. If some of you have ever gone to yoga teacher training, the old days when I used to just take yoga classes, they used to require us to study these things called yamas and niyamas. But nowadays you can go to yoga class and just do yoga and nobody talks to you about this. But in the old days, like in the 80s and 90s, they always made us study this at the beginning of each class. So what they would teach us in the old days of yoga, they would say that yoga was created to create cities. Cities are called like yogic superpowers, that we humans should have the ability to be more intuitive with ourselves and with our tribe and our collective. We should have the ability to be able to manifest what we want. We should have the ability to heal ourselves and heal others. These are considered yogi superpowers. But they said to achieve the cities that you need to operate more as a collective. So they created these rules of tapping into your superpowers. And you can see some of these cities here, and you'll be getting them for your homework. You can see things like practicing nonviolence and kindness and compassion, practicing truthfulness, practicing non-stealing and abundance, you know, tapping into that abundant mentality. Celibacy, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they really meant celibacy or just self-restraint, but maybe an aspect of austerity. Non-possessiveness and non-accumulating, self-reliance, generosity, purity, cleanliness, contentment, happiness, practice of being unconditionally happy, self-tapas, the self-discipline. And one of the latter lessons is to do self-examination and self-study, and then self-surrender. So in this order, yoga schools used to require you to focus on one of these at a time. And then once you put these all together, you begin to tap into that super organism, that super mind, that higher mind where things just flow. And you'll know it. And I'm sure many times in your life, you have tapped into it. I'm sure you have fallen in love and felt that you were on cloud 9. I'm sure you may have found some new workout or practice and you felt like you were at cloud 9. Maybe you were working on a cooperative project and you felt like you were on cloud 9. When we use that expression cloud 9, I believe we are tapping in to that higher field, that higher energy where there's just flow and magic and things just happen. It's usually when the heart is wide open and we operate as one and everything's flowing and our health is good and we feel energy. Even if we're tired, we're tapping into a higher energy. And I really think that's what it is, that you're actually tapping in to a higher frequency, a higher fast moving energy, not a dense moving energy. So something like judgment and negativity is dense and slow moving energy. And so every time you get into negativity, you are tapping into a slow moving, dense, sluggish energy. When you're tapping into love and compassion, you're tapping into a high, fast moving energy and things just happen magically. Time gets distorted. Everything is kind of surreal. So that's where we're going. And as you continue to tap into those higher energies, those instant manifestations will happen and they will be manifestations of your choosing and your excitement. So right now today, I would like us to work, we've already talked about No Negativity Week. We had that as a practice like about a week or so ago. And I want to keep that no negativity going because if we're trying to go there, why do we want to go there? And we don't want to tap into that negative, slow moving, dense energy. But the one today that I really want to work on is judgment. And there was in our homework before a judgment detox. And today we'll be going through a bit of a judgment detox with ourselves and with others. And that is, I'm trying to see where in the rung is judgment. I know judgment's in here, but I don't quite see it. Non-judgment is definitely one of these things. So we're going to move into non-judgment. That's where we're going right now. So I'm going to change the screen. Okay. I would just like to ask you guys maybe to take a few minutes and maybe get a glass of water and run to the restroom because we're about to do some deeper work. And I feel I've been yapping. So I'd like you just to have a 5-minute break before we go into some of this deeper work. And right now it is 3:58, 58 minutes after the hour. So if you could come back at about 3 after the hour, 3 minutes after the hour, we can resume and keep going with this work. Okay. Well, we're back. And yes. So over the course of the week, your homework isn't really anything to do. It's more like living like a bee or living like an ant and beginning to tap into that resonance Begin to, as you see, listening resonance. One way to tap into the field of the whole is to be fully present in the experience. I spelled experience wrong, so obviously I wasn't fully present when I wrote that. Yeah, beginning to listen with your five senses, pay attention to the smell, the taste, and the kinesthetic feel of a situation, not just the visual and auditory information. So ants actually are just so present, and bees are so present that they're taking communication from every aspect of the field. The plants are speaking to them, the way the room looks, the animals, the people. There's a more holistic communication that's constantly coming. It says practice this acute sensory experience in ordinary situations. 4 or 5 times a day, let's say you're preparing for dinner or brushing your teeth, stop thinking thoughts and tune into your 5 senses. What do your present circumstances smell, taste, and feel like, as well as look and sound like? Practicing this kind of mindful attention numerous times a day will enable you to notice much more detail. So when we are tapping into that higher resonance, we're kind of listening and feeling in a more holistic way, but we're also working with our community in that way. So you see, to study your partner and children and pets and friends and colleagues, observe every part of them closely during a variety of activities without judging them negatively or positively. So the idea is to be able to, when you're listening to someone, listen with all 5 senses and try to match resonance. So when I said that before, that when 2 people come together and you listen to them, if your brain waves are operating, so if I sit down and I'm talking to you, my brain waves are like this and yours are like this. Typically, humans do naturally start to synchronize after 15 minutes. Our brain waves start to become more similar, but the more the same that we can become, we begin to generate power together. And you begin to tap into that higher speed, faster moving energy. You're tapping into the whole. So if you can just listen like a sponge and just take their resonance and, look at their eyes and just begin matching resonance, not necessarily trying to one up them or, yeah, well, I did this and da 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 da, just really becoming like a sponge and just feeling what they're saying, and before you respond, see if your intuition actually will give you the right response. And if you're listening and communicating that way together, as you provide kind, supportive statements at the same time, you'll begin to tap into that sort of super organism, and you'll begin to generate more energy together, and beautiful, magical things will happen. So you're becoming more like a bee. And of course, I wrote here about non-judgment towards yourself and others. So I hope over the week, when you catch yourself, having a negative judgment about somebody, and that's just normal. We're always labeling things good or bad, and someone's going to come into your space and you'll label it good, bad, or different, or you'll feel that divide between me and he. But if you can become one and feel into that person, what is that person feeling? What is that person needing? And become one and feel yourself in that person. So to eliminate the perception of the divide, and you will begin to tap into that higher, faster speed, energy, and magical things will happen. Okay, so here's a little judgment worksheet details for you to do. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of time here to go through this on your own. And I'll be quiet for a few minutes, like 5 minutes, and then I'll jump here and try to clarify a few things. All right, so back to this worksheet. I did this worksheet when I was running Phuket Cleanse, and I realized when I found like who angers me and disappoints me, I realized that there was an employee who kept anger. There were 2 different employees, but they were 2 different times of Phuket Cleanse history. They were totally different characters, totally different situations, totally different stories, but they took me to the same emotion, and that they both basically were disrespecting me. Can I see that? they were both disrespecting me in totally different ways. And as I had to flip it around, you know, because there's that point where you start to, you know, flip it around, and you ask yourself, you start to realize that I must have been disrespecting me, because how do I keep creating the same story? I must be walking around with some energy of self disrespect, or I wouldn't be generating the same story, different person. And I think many of us, we certainly have those friends that we can sometimes see it in our friends more than ourselves, that keep generating the same boyfriend, different, same story, different boyfriend, or same problem at work, different job, or same, they're carrying the same energy. So they're making the same manifestations. So if I said to you, I would like to say, I'd like you to imagine now that I'm inviting you to play this amazing game, like this new virtual reality game. And in the game, we're all going to go into a dream. Now, I don't know if there's ever been a movie. It feels like a sci-fi movie, what I'm trying to tell you. Maybe you guys can let me know if there's really a movie that has this storyline. But in this movie, we're all going to go into a dream. Not in this movie. I mean, I'd like to say in 5 minutes, we're all going to go into a dream. And in the dream, we're going to have lots of characters show up and interactions in the dream. And they're all going to seem very, very real. But your job, when you face a character that's not so pleasing, you have to unravel them back into light. Now, you know, when you're dreaming, you're just projecting things, right? You're just projecting, the dream characters look like light, right? But if you were able to lucid dream and stay awake in the dream, you could melt them and turn them back into light, and then they wouldn't exist. Now, I don't know if any of you lucid dream. I have tried to lucid dream, but I don't think I really do it very well. But the idea, if you could lucid dream, if you could become awake in your dreams at night, is that when you run into those characters that are not so pleasing or those situations, you unravel them back into light. And when you unravel them back into light, you begin to see you're projecting them. You're creating them. They're coming from your energy. You're projecting them. So when you do this exercise, can you unravel this person, this situation that you've just identified as having some judgment against? Can you unravel them back into light and examine what frequency you are projecting that's creating this character? So we're playing the game now. And I'm inviting you to play and melt your character and unravel them and feel into what they're making you feel. So if it's disrespect, if it's disregard, anger, dishonest, are you at some place, are you being dishonest with yourself? Are you disrespecting yourself? Are you lying to yourself? Are you arrogant with yourself? Lots of people feel not appreciated. Where is that coming from you? Because they wouldn't appear in your reality if you were not projecting that image, that frequency. So, over the course of the week, as you get triggered, leverage your negativity first to see what you're learning about yourself, what you're learning more about what you want, and use it as an opportunity to unravel the story, unravel the character, and see what you're projecting that is causing you to manifest this character. And this will be a way to play the game of non-judgment. And begin to feel compassion for the character, because as you feel compassion for the character that's creating all this, and you feel into what is it like to stand in those characters' shoes, you're actually feeling compassion for yourself because you are creating them. So as you feel compassion for them and become one with them and melt your judgment, you will learn a lot about yourself, and you'll start to shift into some higher, faster, more exciting energy. So that's some work for you to do, to live like a bee this week or an ant, to resonate and match resonance with the people you listen to use judgment for self-reflection. So we just had a power outage here in Phuket. Alrighty. All right. So, yes, so that's a little bit of work. And I believe as we move into our super organism self, we will begin to discover the cities, the magical yoga, superpowers of yoga. We will begin to tap into that higher, faster speed, moving energy. We will see our manifestations unfold. And we'll begin to heal in many, many ways, ourselves, our families, our communities. And it'll take time, but we'll work together on it. And I now want to say that I am done yapping, thank God. And it's time to start shaking. As I mentioned, we would do today, the shaking meditation. And as I told you before, you're going to avoid the thoughts by not overly attaching. And you're just going to shake and breathe them out and just let it all go. Let that dense energy, as I said, our goal is to move into a higher, faster speeding moving energy. Let density, tightness, dense energies, traumas that are stored in our bodies, we're simply shaking that away so we can tap into that higher, faster, speedy moving energy. So Jenny will be here in 5 minutes. We had a power outage, and so we're now on a phone, so we have to regroup a bit, but we'll be back in 5 minutes. I don't know what time it is now. So it's 4:21 here. So I would say around 27 after, we'll be back to start some shaking. So yeah.
The music move you, and then for the second part you can just freestyle and kind of have a full dance. And then at the end of that, I recommend you put your blindfold on, and I've also got my yoga mat out here. And then at the end of that, just kind of come to standing. We'll take 30 seconds or so. And then we're going to go into some hip openers. For those of you that are familiar with yoga, we're going to go straight on into a goddess squat. So can you just take the camera down? So we'll go goddess squat. We'll then go into frog pose, followed by half pigeon on right, on the left, into a happy baby, and then take you into a lying down position. Mel's going to be talking at this stage, so she'll do the and Mel will do the narration. And then from that, I'll take you into a lying down state, and we're going to go to do the Ananda Mandala meditation. It's a 20-minute meditation. You can do it lying down. I prefer to do it sitting up. So I'll take you to a lying down position, and then you decide whether you're going to lie down or sit up. So just that you've got everything ready. You've got your mat, you've got your blindfold. If you want to go super loud, put your speakers on. I don't have any. And yeah, you're ready. So just give me 30 seconds or so, Rita. I'm on in that. All right. Blindfold on. And it's a 5-minute song. Okay. Volume up. Okay, Rita, we're ready. Are people ready?
sending your intention of the next part of this practice, the hip opening practice, to release that density that is holding you back. The shadows of doubts, the fears, disbelief.
Here, drop down into a goddess squat. Bring your elbows into your knees. Starting with our hips open, to a lot of tension in our hips, a lot of emotions. So just press your elbows against your knees. Stick the thumb down to the maybe shift away from one another. That's it. And here we're going to go into frog pose. So make your knees nice and wide. Flex your feet. Have your feet directly behind your knees. Elbows down. And as opposed to going forward, try come back. So try get your bum back.
Go a little deeper. And as you feel and move through some of that pain, allow yourself to release the density that has held you back, the shame, the doubt, the guilt, the fear, the limitation. Moving into pigeon pose with the right knee bent. Heel just under the navel. Left leg long and strong. And lying into a position, opening up and releasing. Breathing in and out. And when you feel fear, open your hands, turn them over, using the mudra of service. As you open the hands, you're releasing and say, may I be here of service? How can I serve? And as you sit in this energy, those doubts, those fears will go away, because density doesn't live here, not in this vibration of absolute dedication to service. Then moving to the other side, bending the left knee, foot below the navel, heel just below the navel, bending forward, putting your hands in the mudra of service, committing yourself to be of service with every opportunity, whether it's a kind word, a smile, or just the vibration of love, with an open heart, and say, please show me how I can serve. And you will notice you can move deeper into the pose, because density doesn't live here. Just release and feel confident. You don't need to hold this anymore. When you're in service, you are free. In the happy baby pose, with fingers and hands pulling on the heels, opening wide the hips, that last bit of tension, knowing you've let a lot go here today. feeling free as more and more tension, traumas leave your tissues as you move into wholeness with the divine. And just lying in Savasana, preparing yourself for an energy clearing meditation. Some of you may be more comfortable sitting in the meditation that we're about to do. You can do this meditation in a seated position, or you can start in a seated position and always lie down if you feel like lying down at any point. Many people say their backs begin to hurt while doing this meditation and they're comfortable moving into a lying down pose. So this is an energy clearing meditation, and that's what we're doing now, releasing dense, stuck energies. Now, luckily we have a model here. So this is a meditation many of you might have done at Phuket Cleanse called Ananda Mandala. And we are simply going to be doing a breath. Notice she's breathing in through the nose and popping back her diaphragm to push the oxygen out into the nose. So it's a sharp inhale and it's a sharp exhale. And you probably feel a little more tension around the exhale, that pushing of the exhale. And there's simply, some of you might, if you feel your nose is blocked, you might actually have to get a tissue and blow your nose, and that's totally understandable so you can breathe more easily. And we're simply going to follow the directions. I'm going to play an audio and speak over that a little bit. But basically, we will be clearing the different energy centers called the chakras. So I think we'll just start.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Exhale, hold your breath out. Do not chant. Focus on the root chakra, Muladhara. One, inhale, hold while focusing on the crown, Sahasrara. Om Satyam Om 2. Exhale. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Exhale, hold your breath out. Focus on the second chakra, Swadhisthana. One, inhale, hold while focusing on the crown, Sahasrara. Om Satyam Om. 2. Exhale. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Exhale, hold your breath out. Focus on the third chakra, Manipura, solar plexus area. One, inhale, hold while focusing on the crown, Sahasrara. Om Satyam Om. Two, exhale. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Exhale, hold your breath out. Bring your attention to the fourth chakra, the heart center, Anahata. One, inhale, hold while focusing on the crown, Sahasrara. Om Satyam Om. Two, exhale. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, two, one, 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 two. Exhale, hold your breath out. Focus on the fifth chakra, the throat center, Vishuddhi. One, inhale, hold while focusing on the crown, Sahasrara. Om Satyam Om. Two, exhale. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Exhale, hold your breath out. Focus your attention on the sixth chakra, Agnya, point between the eyebrows. One, inhale, hold while focusing on the crown, Sahasrara. Om Satyam Om. Two, exhale. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Exhale, hold your breath out. Focus on the seventh chakra, the crown, Sahasrara. Om Satyam Om. 1. Inhale, hold while focusing on the crown, Sahasrara. Om Satyam Om. You can hold your breath as long as comfortable. Then exhale and return to normal breathing. Keep your eyes closed and meditate on the Sahasrara. You could now relax your body and continue meditation and move into Shavasana, lying down posture.
Yes, so you got a little taste of that. And for those of you who want to do more breath work, we will have breath work at 6 p.m. Bangkok time. And right now it is 10 till 5, so that'll give you about an hour if you'd like to go and do some breath work. And that's going to be some breath work with some group intentions. So we're giving you that that little bit of a taste of Ananda Mandala, but I would love if you be doing some of that breath work and energy work through the week, and along with your judgment detox and no negativity and living more like a bee and not think like going from me to we. And so that's the vibe and the lesson. And as usual, I encourage all of you guys to reach out to me. One of the things I'd like you to do is to continue to narrow in on those intentions. And I'd like you to think of those core desired emotions that you came up with today, and some of the ones that you've had prior, as your foundation, your soil. And from those, you should be growing the flowers, which are your intentions. So if your intentions are rooted in your core desired emotions, then you will be aligned. So take a look at your intentions. Maybe you need to rewrite them, and please submit them for next week. If you haven't submitted them for this week, if you submit them for next week, then let us know again what call you're going to be on, and send us your intentions, and we will add your intentions to our group intention ceremonies. So you're going to do some beautiful deep breath work and group intention, and begin also to keep track of the changes in your life. So thank you for going deep and hard with me this week. It's a lot. And thanks to our crew, we've had every technical problem under the sun, but we're still here on a phone, no electricity. So thank you so much for being with us. And I hope to see some of you in an hour. And I hope to see some of you tomorrow in tomorrow's breath work. And then please, I'm always happy to see you in my iPhone when you WhatsApp me. So thank you for everything. Bye-bye.